All right, gang, here is the 10th and final lesson for Chapter 6. And this one's all about using properties of addition. And if you recall, we've been talking about properties all year. We've been talking about addition and multiplication properties when we're dealing with decimals and whole numbers. And they're no different when we're dealing with fractions. So if you recall, one property we learned is when multiplying or adding, that the order of the numbers does not matter. That's the commutative property. And as you can see, that pertains to fractions as well. 1/2 plus 3/5 is the same as 3/5 plus 1/2. And if you also recall, another property we went over this year is called the associative property. And that just means the way we group numbers does not matter when we're adding. So for example, if I was adding 7 plus 8 first and then adding 6, that's going to be the same as 6 and 7 and then adding 8. Okay, so I can group these numbers however I want to, so it's easier for me to add, and that's okay. And we're going to do the same type of work when we deal with fractions. Okay, so in this example, they show the sum of 2/9 and 1/8 plus 3/8 is the same as 2/9 plus the sum of 1/8 and 3/8. And that makes sense because it's easy to add 1/8 and 3/8 first. I would have done that as well. So let's look at this example. And it's a pretty simple problem, but we're going to use properties to make it easier for us. So let's read it real quick. Looks like someone's going on a trip. Jane and her family are driving to Big Lagoon State Park. On the first day, they travel 1/3 of the total distance. So on the first day, they travel 1/3 of the distance. On the second day, they travel 1/3 of the total distance in the morning and then 1/6 of the total distance in the afternoon. How much of the total distance has Jane's family driven by the end of the second day? So I'm going to do a quick drawing. You know I love my drawings to show that. So on day one, actually, let me undo that. So this represents the total distance, which we don't know how far. We'll call that 1/2. So on day one, 1/3 of the total distance was driven. On the second day, morning, so I'll call this day 2 a.m., drove another 1/3 of the distance. And then day 2 p.m. drove 1/6 of the total distance. This is what we don't know. Okay. How much the total distance has Jane's family driven by the end of the second day? So we don't even need to find out that unknown. What we need to find out is 1/3 and 1/3 and 1/6, because that's how much they drove by the end of the second day. They got up to this point. So that's easy to set up. It's 1/3 and 1/3 and 1/6. Now, the way they worded the problem, we would group day 2, right? We'd do 1/3 plus 1/6 first and then add 1/3. But there's an easier way. I would add 1/3 and 1/3 first. So here we're using associative property to group numbers that are simple to add, because that's easy. 1/3 and 1/3 is 2/3. And then we can add a sixth. And now we all know how to do this, right? 2/3 equals 4/6 plus the 1/6. So they have completed 5/6 of the distance that they were going to travel. There's our final answer. Okay, because that's what we had to find. All right, so you can group these numbers however you need to make it simple. So let's look at another one. There's no word problem here. This is just a straight up problem that we can look at and see if we can group a little bit better. So they want us to find the sum of 2 and 5/8 plus 1 2/3, and then add that sum, that answer, to 1 and 1/8. So we can switch numbers around to make this easier. Okay, so here they have us rewriting this, flipping these numbers. Okay, I'll do it. You don't really need to do this part, but I'll do it anyway. And then what they have us doing is grouping these differently. Instead of adding 1 2/3 and 2 5/8 together, we can add 2 5/8 and 1 1/8 because that's just easier. Because the denominators, 8 and 8, are the same. So it's just easier to do that, right? So when I rewrite this, I get 1 2/3 plus, well, the sum of 2 5/8 and 1 2 5/8 and 1 1/8, well, 1/8 and 5/8 is 6/8. And 2 plus 1 is 3. And now I can find that common denominator. Well, I can convert these to 24ths, but I'm going to actually, you could do that, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to rewrite 3 6/8 as 3 3/4. So now I'm going to make the common denominator 12ths. You could have easily just gone to the next step and made it 24ths would work also. Well, 1 2/3, to convert thirds to 12ths, I have to multiply by 4 over 4. The numerator is 2, so 2 times 4 is 8. And then to convert fourths to 12ths, I have to multiply by 3 over 3. Numerator is 3, so 3 times 3 is 9. Then when I add those up, I get 9 and 8 is 17 12ths, and 3 and 1 is 4. And I need to simplify that. That becomes 5 and 5 12ths. That's our final answer. Okay, you always want to make sure you simplify when you need to. We don't want to leave the answer like that. Okay? So, go ahead and give A a try. Think about how you would regroup these numbers. Okay? Go ahead and pause the video, do A, and then you can press play again. All right, so you should have A done at this point. So to redo this, you should have realized that you could have grouped these based on the denominator of fourths. Just move the parentheses around. Well, 3/4 and 1/4 is 4/4, which is 1 whole, plus 5. So this becomes 6. Plus 1 5/12. So it becomes 7 and 5/12. Hopefully you got that same answer. Okay, if not, see where you went wrong and make those necessary corrections. You can always pause this video before going on. All right, check out B. We have 1/5 plus 3/10, the sum of those fractions plus 2/5. Pause this video, give that one a crack. All right, if you're back, you should have rewritten this as 1/5 plus 2/5 plus 3/10. Sum of 1/5 and 2/5 is 3/5 plus 3/10. Then we have to convert fifths to tenths. We have to multiply by 2 over 2. We get 6/10 plus 3/10 equals 9/10. All right. So remember, using these properties, we're just using commutative property, realizing the order of numbers does not matter, and associative property, how we group numbers when adding doesn't matter. So you can group different numbers so that's easier to add. All right. So go ahead and start working on those must-dos. Focus on this page first. I'll be around to chat with you guys and help you out. Good luck.